quarter-point rise in the Fed funds rate might not have much of an impact anyway. But if interest rates continue to climb, say 7 or 8 times in the next 3 or 4 years, you will start to notice.
CNBC's personal finance correspondent Sharon Epperson saying there's no cause for concern even as the Fed hikes interest rates for the first time in almost a decade. With Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth back with you now on Newsmax Prime.
Well, that definitely sounds like great news for the financial sector, but what will all of this mean for all of us?
Well, we've got the perfect guide to ask. For more on this, let's welcome in the chief economist for the Heritage Foundation, Stephen Moore, joining us from the Heritage Foundation in Washington. We should point out that Steve is also a co-author of the book, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of States. And no, there's just a vicious rumor they were paid for the length of the title. But Stephen, all kidding aside, your thoughts on the Fed raising rates. Is this economy strong enough for this type of interest rate hike?
Hi, JD, and hi, guys, and I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. Look, my feeling is that it was time for the Fed to get off this zero interest rate policy because, we've been on it for 7 years. It was supposed to be this, wonderful stimulus to the economy, just like, remember, the stimulus spending plan was going to create all these jobs, and it just didn't work. I mean, it was a failure. And so what we've basically seen is a really stagnant economy. And when you ask, is the economy strong enough? No, it's not a strong economy. We should be doing much better. We've been growing at 2%. We should be growing at 4%, as we did under Reagan and even under Clinton. So I would say that this is the right time to do this. We don't want to, when you print money, JD, all you do is build up financial bubbles. And remember, we've seen 2 of these in the last 20 years with the bubble that built up with remember the dot-com bubble bursting. And then, of course, we had the real estate crisis. And both of those were in no small part a result of these easy money policies.
Even Wall Street seems pretty happy with this move, but does a rate increase benefit banks and businesses more than the average day American?
Well, by the way, Wall Street had baked these numbers into the cake for many weeks before this. So the jump in the numbers that we've seen in the last day or so in terms of stocks is not, I think, a result of this official announcement, which everyone knew was coming. But I want to make another point, which is, I think, the essential thing that people are forgetting about what's happening with our economy. And that is that our problems right now that I was just talking about, the fact that we're not growing fast enough and that we're not creating enough good paying jobs, those are not primarily a result of bad monetary policy. They are a result of what people like JD fought against when they were here in Washington, which is a tax system that is completely broken and taxes that have been going through the roof, a regulatory structure that is strangling our business, health care, Obamacare, which has all sorts of disincentives for businesses to hire workers. We're not going to see a big improvement in the economy until we fix those things, and it's probably going to require a new president for that to happen.
And Stephen, there's one more thing that has to do with Capitol Hill, and this is the proposed $1.1 trillion spending bill. This whole deal, really, from my perspective, stinks. But what impact will it have when you combine it with the interest rate hike? Does that add even more to our deficit?
Okay, Economics 101 today. Printing money does not create jobs, and having the government spend money does not create jobs. And that's what's been going on in spades now for the last decade, under the last couple of years under George Bush, and now the first 7 years under Barack Obama. So we have to change strategies completely. We got to get our debt and deficit under control. We've got to have a sound monetary policy, and then we have to fix these other things that we talked about, JD. We got to fix our tax code. We've got to get rid of some of these regulations. When I talk to businessmen and women around the country, and I ask them, why aren't you investing the way that normally businesses would do in a recovery? And they always point to 2 things: regulation and taxes. Regulations and taxes. These things have a very negative effect on our employers around this country. And, as our old buddy Dick Armey used to say, liberals love jobs, but they hate employers. You can't have one without the other.
Stephen, if you could change anything about this spending bill, what would you change?
Well, there is one good thing in the spending bill, and I'm writing a book about this, which is the energy, the energy revolution. And we did get rid of the export ban, which is going to be very positive for energy development. But everything else is terrible. We got rid of the debt. We suspended the debt ceiling. We have 6 or 7% increases in spending this year. I mean, we're going to spend more, guys. Believe it or not, I mean, this is painful for me to tell you. We're spending more under this budget than Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi spent on their budgets.
Oh, politically, that does not sound good for Paul Ryan, for Mitch McConnell, and the Republican Congress. Maybe we ought to be delivering colon switches to those offices. But Stephen Moore, joining us tonight from the Heritage Foundation. Stephen, we very much appreciate your time. Again, the name of his book is An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of States, How Taxes, Energy, and Worker Freedom Change Everything. Not a lot of worker freedom for you and me from my perspective, because you heard what Stephen had to say. Do you agree or disagree? Why don't you send us your comments? Do so at newsmaxtv.com/comments. Coming up, Sarah Palin.